Russia's War in Ukraine by Helen, Regan, Andrew Raine, Jack Guy, and Amy Woodyatt, CNN. What we covered. Russian forces are now in control of most of Severodonetsk, the epicenter of the bloody battle, Ukraine's eastern Donbas region, but Ukrainian lines to the city do not yet appear to be totally cut. Russian armed forces have destroyed the second of three bridges between the twin cities of Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. Amnesty International has accused Russia of war crimes during its efforts to capture the northeastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv, documenting the alleged use of cluster munitions and other indiscriminate means of attack. A ship carrying 18,000 tons of Ukrainian corn arrived Monday at a port in northwestern Spain using what a regional animal feed producers group described as a new maritime route that aims to avoid Russia's blockade of Ukraine's ports on the Black Sea. Battle for Donbas is one of the most brutal battles in and for Europe, Zelensky says, from CNN's Victoria Butenko and Deaton. The battle for the Donbas region in eastern Ukraine will surely go down in military history as one of the most brutal battles in Europe and for Europe. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said in his 90 address on Monday. This comes after Ukrainian military officials earlier in the day said their troops had been pushed back from the Severodonetsk city center, which along with its twin city Lysychansk, is at the heart of the current battle for what's still in Ukrainian control in the Luhansk region in Ukraine's eastern Donbas. Officials also said three key bridges linking Severodonetsk to Lysychansk are now impassable to vehicles, meaning supply routes in and evacuations out via those routes are impossible. Zelensky said Ukrainians face the significant advantage of the Russians in the amount of equipment and especially artillery systems. The price of this battle for us is very high. It's just scary. And we draw the attention of our partners on a daily basis to the fact that only a sufficient number of modern artillery for Ukraine will ensure our advantage and finally the end of Russian torture of the Ukrainian Donbas, he added. Zelensky said a boy was killed on Monday by Russian shelling in the battle for Lysychansk. This is a 6-year-old boy on Moskovska Street is also, as it turned out, a dangerous enemy for the Russian Federation, he said. Our three bridges into Severodonetsk are now impassable, Luhansk region leader says, from CNN's Julia Presniakova, Yulia Kesaieva, Deaton, and Mick Krever. Smoke columns rise from Severodonetsk as seen from Lysychansk, Ukraine, on Friday, June 10th. Marcus Young, Los Angeles Times, Getty Images. Or three bridges connecting the embattled city of Severodonetsk with its twin city Lysychansk to the west are now impassable for vehicles, severely limiting evacuation options for those trying to flee the city and supply routes in, according to Sergei Gaidai, head of the Luhansk region military administration. The bridges made it possible to carry at least some humanitarian cargo, something related to reserves. It is currently impossible to use the bridges, Gaidai said. A second of three bridges were destroyed over the weekend. Gaidai's office explained that the third bridge, which has come under sustained shelling, is now impassable for vehicles. The destruction of the bridges gives the Russian military another advantage since supply lines are interrupted, Gaidai said. Getting in weapons and reserves is now difficult, but not impossible, he said. Gaidai said that travel between Severodonetsk and Lysychansk was still possible, but did not go into detail for security reasons. Lysychansk is already being shelled very powerfully with heavy caliber weapons. They are destroying everything, both humanitarian headquarters and hospitals. But from Lysychansk, there is still an opportunity to evacuate people and pick up humanitarian goods every day, he said. Gaidai also said of Severodonetsk that Russian forces really control most of the city, estimating about 70% to 80%, but he denied claims by the self-declared Luhansk People Republic, LPR, that Severodonetsk has fallen, saying this is not true. Part of the city is still controlled by Ukrainian defenders. If they had complete control of the city, Russian soldiers would not have died there, Gaidai said. Gaidai also said that even if Ukrainian forces won back the city, it will be impossible to restore the infrastructure completely before the winter. The only possible thing is to put radiators that will keep the temperature warm in the tents. And yes, everything is broken with water. With electricity, there will be huge problems with everything. High-intensity hostilities continue in Severodonetsk, Ukrainian official says. From CNN's Yulia, Presniakova in Lviv, and Deaton. Smoke rises from the city of Severodonetsk in the eastern Ukrainian region of Donbas on June 13th. Aris Massinis, AFP, Getty Images. Intense fighting continues inside Severodonetsk, one of the last holdouts for Ukraine in the Luhansk region, and more widely, the entirety of the country's eastern Donbas. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense spokesperson Oleksandr Motyzianik said in a briefing Monday, high-intensity hostilities continue in Severodonetsk, where Ukrainian troops fight to repel Russia's advances, Motyzianik said. Russian forces already in control of the city center are actively using artillery, multiple rocket systems, he added. He said that Russia's advantage is their air power, which is why they are advancing, adding that Russia is losing troops in armed combat. In terms of the street fighting happening in Severodonetsk, Russian forces are trying to encircle Ukrainian troops, but the enemy is suffering significant losses in the infantry units of the Russian Guard and the Russian armed forces, and they are advancing only by using assault aircraft, Motyzianik said. Earlier Monday, the armed forces of Ukraine said that Russia had pushed the Ukrainian forces back from the city center.